Hello, and welcome to Break, the Fallthrough After Show. This is Break for, I don't know what we're going to call that episode we just did. I like that thing that got said at the end, the defer life considered harmful, so that might wind up being the title of the episode.
It's a really good title.
That's a really good title.
I'm here to serve, my friends. I'm here to serve.
But yes, I am here with a wonderful co-host, as always, Matthew Sanabria, and our guest from that episode, Ron Evans. So, how are you guys doing? I was listening in on that conversation. I was just the producer for that episode, but it sounded really good. I was like kind of engaged with those conversations that you were having.
It was really fun.
It was fun. I hope it came through well from my perspective because, dude, after 4 weeks of traveling and then coming back and then going back to work and then helping my wife open back her chocolate shop back up, I was up to like 2 a.m. last night doing pricing for the chocolate shop to try to like figure out, hey, how are we going to raise our prices where it's not like, oh, our customers are going to hate us, but also chocolate prices went so freaking crazy that we would need to recoup some of this. And yeah, I was up really late, so I'm sorry if I was a little tired during the episode.
Yeah, running a business is hard. Like I had to do my taxes on
so
Monday.
Hard.
Ugh. That was just such a pain in the ass. I did not enjoy that part, but
yeah, being in business for yourself, it's, promoting, doing the work, and then trying to get paid from the invoices and, your taxes and all the rest of it. On a good year, bad news, you owe a bunch of money. On a bad year, good news, you don't owe any money, but you don't have any either. So,
Exactly.
The life of the entrepreneur. The chocolate shop sounds like one of these things that if somebody doesn't know, it sounds really simple. And it's like, oh no, it's a perishable product. It's a food stuff, the ingredients, customers, retail, all the rest of it. The refrigeration failed, so we lost all our inventory.
Yeah.
It's Mother's Day. We don't have enough inventory. Like it's deceptively
Literally.
Simple. Like playing a conga drum. Conga drum looks really easy, right? Just one drum, you play with your hands. It's the hardest drum to play by far because you make 8 different sounds if you play it correctly with no sticks, just one drum, 2 hands, 8 sounds.
Yep.
Right. So actually it's the hardest drum. So yeah, a small retail store is not an easy business at all.
And it's like rent comes due, right? Regardless of whether or not you sell a bunch of product or no product at all, rent's coming and you're gonna have to pay that. Whereas in like a software entrepreneurial business, you can really deploy software very cheap and really try to scale to zero when you're not, being in use. So your cost of doing business is really low, comparatively speaking.
Okay, I'm going to give you some unsolicited advice. Okay, you need to pivot your business. 2 words, man. Virtual chocolate.
Get all the benefits of chocolate.
Just send me your current physical chocolate, and I will exchange it all for virtual chocolate at a 10 times, premium. Let's just say 10 times more virtual chocolate. I mean, it's a great deal, right?
Yeah, perfect. It's perfect for our AI future.
For the NFC, non-fungible chocolate.
Oh my God, I forgot about that word until you said it.
oh, NFTs.
I totally forgot about NFTs.
Yeah, I saw someone confuse NPC with NFT online the other day, and I'm like, nope, that's the wrong one.
Good effort. Almost there.
Good effort. I get that we have so many acronyms, so I get that this is hard, but nope, that's not the correct one.
Well, that's why we need to get rid of the TLAs. 3-letter acronyms. Yeah. And we need to replace it, and I have a replacement. It's called FLOSS, the 4-letter acronym system.
Oh, FLAS. Yeah.
FLAS.
Floss. I don't know.
Floss.
Yeah, that's like a long
FLAS. Might need to work on it a bit more. But we've run out of TLAs, so you see this is like a crisis in the industry.
It's like IP addresses
and domains.
Gotta start overloading because we ran out of numbers. We ran out of 3-letter acronyms. That is like you go to any corporate company and people just start talking. You'll just start hearing a lot of acronyms. And you'll be like, what is that thing? What is... Wait, I know what this meant at my last job, but what does that mean here? Does it mean the same thing? Oh, those letters all mean the same words, but those words mean a completely different thing. Okay, great. That's not going to be confusing or hard at all.
It's even worse though when they have both acronyms acronym overloading and word overloading. Oh, that word means something very specific here as well. So now you must parse both the acronym and the word. And also, many people don't want to admit they don't know things. So here you have these meetings going on with a flurry of acronyms and words. No one actually knows what anyone's talking about. Everyone leaves the meeting. Yeah, we'll get some action items ready. And you're like, right. Can someone explain what we all just said? Because I'm sorry, I don't know what we're talking about right now.
You can lose your whole audience in like one sentence just by putting a word that's unclear or an acronym that nobody knows the meaning to. HashiCorp was famous for this because they would put freaking acronyms all over their slides. And instead of like expanding them in presentations, like saying, hey, today I'm going to show you how to create a DNS record. DNS is domain name system. Right? Instead of expanding it during presentation or something, they would just tell the audience, like, go see our glossary and Confluence with all the acronyms listed. And you're sitting there on a meeting trying to like listen to the presentation and search for acronyms. Horrible. And like every time we'd push back against, hey, you should like probably not use as many acronyms in your slides. It's like, well, we have a glossary. Go use it. It's like, oh, that's okay. Now I just don't care about your presentation. Actually, you know what? I'm leaving this meeting. Bye. And
they're like, go look at our glossary, but we're not going to hire a lexicographer so you can be properly designed. No, we're not going to do that.
No,
we're just going to put it up on Confluence and you can just try and figure out how to find everything.
It's an almost alphabetical list of freaking acronyms. Yeah.
I just feel like the AI summary of this meeting could be amazing. The errors would be like incredible.
It's so true. I don't know. It's just communication is a very big part of life, and we just don't do it well in so many places. It's kind of frustrating.
Yeah, that's another degree. Talk about how people are like philosophy degrees are useless. I think people think communication degrees are also useless, and it's like, well, actually, no. Like understanding not just like how to communicate, but also like the different types of communication, how communication differs between. Differs when there's different numbers of people involved or different number of systems involved. Like that's all very helpful for like information for existing in our current world. And people are just like, no, that's such a useless degree. I mean, the idea of a useless degree in general is kind of hilarious, but people are saying stuff.
Communications and media. What is more important on Earth now, possibly, than that? Certainly it has a lot more impact and influence, and yet how many people have actually studied anything about it as far as its history, the provenance of things, techniques, tools. Some people know some of those, but a lot of it's like, yeah, I watched this one influencer who's an influencer about training influencers, and it's like, yeah, have you heard of Marshall McLuhan? No, never mind. Let's just pass, skip over that. But it is interesting to see. Sorry, go ahead.
It goes back to studying, right? We don't study the things that we interact with on a daily basis. Like communication is something we do every day. It's something that's fed to us in ways that is beneficial and in ways that's meant to like kind of trick your mind, right? Like putting the milk at the back of the store or like using certain words in communication to convey things. Like Apple's famous for this in their presentations, right? You listen to their presentation, you think that you're walking away with like the best product ever. But it's really the best iPhone ever, right? Like they're very specific about their wording to the point where it is technically correct what they're saying, but the way you're walking away from it makes you think like, oh, this is like the best thing ever. It's like, no, just the best one that they've created. And it's very like weird. And we as humans spend no time studying what these words and this communication means. And hell, we don't even freaking what's the word? We don't even like understand definitions of words. We just use words. We have no idea what they mean. Like we just use random words.
Apple, I mean, I used to work at Apple back in the 5-color day, and it was like a university in precise communication. Like the way you had to, if it was, a name with, if it was Apple Talk, it was capital A, capital T. It was never lowercase. It was one word. It was not two words. It was always consistent. Like there was every single word that had an acronym, you had to have the definition in parentheses. And then the first time it appeared, no matter what it was, in all cases, in order to ensure that this communication was uniform through all forms of communication for the whole company. And it seemed like a big pain. It was a big pain, but it really worked because they had this precision in communication that they still have as far as the impact of getting the outcome that they want from whatever that is. And there's more than one way to communicate. Certainly, like a great example that I was actually just dealing with very recently is pull requests that are complicated and have a lot of people chiming in. Like you have, let's say somebody wants to do something fairly complex, fairly far reaching. Well, the classic bike shed thing is, most people will say, yeah, looks good to me, thumbs up. A few people will actually look at it, right? So, of course, there's always a large number of silent people who are sort of too scared to weigh in or didn't really like, I guess that sounds good, whatever. But it can be very tricky to try to communicate precise things in the form of like asynchronous threads on a GitHub pull request where they're commenting about changes that are now outdated, or trying to communicate ideas about the overall concept of the code where they're not maybe good at expressing the thing that they don't like or that they would like to see. Maybe English is not their first language. Maybe it is, and it's just very, very hard in this form to communicate. And of course, it's very easy for this communication to go from, a nice tone to suddenly people are not happy. People are mad. People are really pissed off. And it's very tricky to understand the nature of even this sort of group asynchronous communication. It's like, yeah, go async. It'll be perfect. Don't worry. Actually, like someone's really mad at someone else because they thought that it meant something that maybe it didn't, because they were reading into it something that wasn't actually there. This happens a lot with companies that do a lot of work via chat in general, but it's exacerbated in something like open source contributions because maybe the people don't even know each other in the real world. And the nature of the asynchronous communication, and also that it's not necessarily an easy thing to articulate. Like in this particular case, it was some people didn't like the API that was proposed, but couldn't explain why very precisely. But there was more than one of them. So it wasn't just a pure opinion, like one person's opinion. So communication is very hard. We need multiple modalities. Sometimes just to actually speak to someone is a lot easier because you can't articulate it in a written form quickly enough to keep up with the concepts, and it's too easy to be misconstrued. But sometimes you need to write it down because your thoughts are too amorphous to actually explain even to yourself. Like maybe you just need to write it down first and then have a conversation. Like I really like taking notes. Like I make a lot of paper notes. Usually it's just to focus my mind into trying to figure out what are we talking about. Just because, I'm good with written words. I can read very quickly. I'm not as good sometimes with like listening to people talk for a long period of time. Like I have to focus.
Yeah.
So communication is hard. Mass communication, even harder, but sometimes harder to measure the outcome as directly. So in short, yes, learn to communicate. And if you're trying to learn mass communication and somebody says to you, oh, this is useless, they really do not know anything about mass communication.
Yeah.
In fact, filling in the blank, if they say X is useless, I bet they know nothing about X, whatever X is.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me how like there is like so much uniform communication in our lives. Like I was thinking about the MTA and how for the subway, like they have a very specific font they use for everything. They have a very specific set of color schemes. They have a very specific set of icons. And so it's like you can basically tell when you're like, if you see a picture that's like a New York City subway station, it's like, oh no, that's definitely a New York City subway station. Even if you just see the signage, you're like, oh no,
the signage
this is
the
specific
amazing
type of signage. And it makes the system like so much easier to navigate because everything is so uniform. So you see something and you like know what it is, even down to like, you know, they use specific colors for specific lines. So you like know, so you can quickly identify like, oh, this train's probably going to go here. That train's probably going to go there. And I think people just kind of like write that off as like, why would you spend money on that sort of thing? Or why would you be such a stickler for all of that? And they have like a huge design book that they're like, this is actually, I think you can actually find it online. It's like, this is how the whole system of, information signage is designed and how it lays out and how you must actually make signs if you're making signs for the MTA, which I think is quite incredible.
Well, it's a classic example of the paradox of choice. Right? Too many choices, then you make no choice. If you have fewer choices, sometimes it's even better to have no choice. Like I remember when Go funked, the automatic formatting of code, right? And I know a lot of hippie programmers like, don't tell me how to format my code, man. Like that's so uncool. Like, and okay, I've been in more than one meeting where people were talking about squiggly brackets. Okay, I swear to you. And like, the first time, like you have a dog in the fight, you have an opinion. By the third time, you're like, I have no opinion. Please decide something. I no longer care. What I care about is that we're talking about it. And so this idea, like there was one true way to format the code, that is it, the end. Like a bunch of people I know took that as some sort of like control freaky, sort of extreme dictatorial decision. Once I started thinking about it, I'm like, oh, I'm free. I don't have to worry about which kind of plug it is. I just plug it in. Like you guys travel, you know how this is. You're like, okay, where am I going? Do I have that plug? Like I must find them because I'm going there now and I do not want to buy another set of them because I have that set.
Yeah. No, I think it's similar to how like a company will come out with like a new logo and they'll be like, we spent $2 million or $3 million on it. And people are like, it's like the same logo. Like that's crazy. You spent so much money to make like such a small modification. And I'm like, no, you're seeing like the beginning and the end. You see nothing of what's in the middle. Like it's highly unlikely that they just iterated on the same exact idea. They probably explored a huge number of different ideas and put them through focus groups and all this other stuff to figure out like, can we do something to make our brand more like visible, understandable, seeable? And then they arrive back at like, okay, no, just some slight modifications to our current logo or our current branding is all that we need. And people see that as like, well, you just wasted a whole bunch of money. It's like, well, no, because sometimes you go through that process and you completely change up your logo or completely change up your design, right? It's a process you have to go through. And people don't think that process is valuable because they don't see the middle part and they think only the outcome is what matters, not what happens in the middle.
It's not a formula, it's an algorithm. You cannot predict the outcome without actually executing the program. In this case, the design process. You can't just cut to the finish. There is the process is required in order to achieve an outcome. This is, I think, a really important part that people don't see. They just, why can't you just like cut out the thingy? Like, what is the thingy? First of all, like, also, you mean the left or the right thingy? Because I want to make sure I cut the right one out. There's a whole process of every single thing that we do that requires a lot of elimination along the way, and to sort of discount that entire process. Now, it might seem silly. Maybe it was silly. Like they didn't need to change the logo. Okay. But maybe they did. They had maybe some good reason for doing it. You don't necessarily know. On the other hand, maybe it was silly and they should have invested that into their actual communication. Like I've seen a lot of companies where they have a mission statement. Like, this is not pointed at one company. This is a shotgun blast at all. This is a grenade. If you're in the blast radius, it's just because. Like they have a mission statement and they say, here's our new mission statement. And it's the same thing. It's completely incomprehensible. It's really long. I don't know what it means. Also, it could be any company's mission statement. Like I could play spin the mission statement, like, okay, 25, spin the roulette wheel of logos and spin the roulette wheel of mission statements and any random company and any random mission statement. Will it fit? Like, yes, 99 times out of 100. Like, that's not a casino. I mean, that's a reverse casino. So, I mean, what does it tell you? It's not enough differentiation. So I think there's two sides. Like the one side, the committee ended up with another mission statement that was equally bad to the previous one. Then there's we came up with a 4-line, we came up with the ultimate driving machine. And like, it took how long to refine our process. This is something that is greatly discounted in design thinking, is how many options you have to go through and say, nah, that kind of sucked. And then you fell in love with one for like 2 weeks. And then you're like, oh God, I hate it already. It's like, oh, I'm glad we didn't make the change because we needed that thing for the next 10 years. So like, good thing we stopped it now. So there's something to be said for the slow thinking part, not just the fast thinking.
Yeah, I think there's like there's a problem of like the difference between a really good mission statement or vision statement or whatever it is and a really bad one is like so small, where it's like for instance, like CVS's mission statement, I don't know if it still is, but at one point it was like helping people on their path to better health. And it's like, it sounds kind of like how all of the mission statements sound, but then you actually think about it and you're like, well, actually, no, that's actually really profound, because it's one of those things where it's like everybody in the company can really embody that in everything that they're doing. And you can sit down and it actually challenges you to think like, wow, is like this decision we're making going to help people on their path to better health, or is it not? And that was actually one of the driving forces of why CVS stopped selling cigarettes, is because people brought up like, hey, you're trying to say that you want to help people on their path to better health, but you're also selling them this thing that
I thought this was a drugstore, man. You don't got nicotine? What kind of drugs is this?
Yeah,
I think that's a great mission statement. I thought that was a pretty good mission statement compared to many of the ones which are like a paragraph long. And
yeah, you don't need a lot of words.
Can you eliminate words from the current mission statement? Keep strike through words until you have one. There's if you've struck through all the words, start over.
Right. Yeah, I think it's also there's this like larger, and I think like specifically in the Go world we're facing this. So I was thinking about how there's this thing we do where we don't realize that our thoughts haven't touched like ground truth, where we're like thinking something that is kind of invalid on its face, but we don't really think about it that way. So I was thinking about one of the things I think about too much of like modules, and specifically I was thinking about like package names and how much over time we've like messed with like how all that infrastructure works. Whereas like in the beginning of Go, it was very simple, right? You had the name of a package and then you had its import path. And like the same code, the same package with the same name could be available at many different import paths. And when we did vendoring, we had to like fix that so the compiler could be like, actually, these two packages have different import paths, but they're actually the same package. And then we added internal that also mucked with some stuff. And then we added modules that really mucked with everything. I think the biggest blunder of modules when it comes to this is probably the V2 thing. And now you have like overloading, and it's like V2 could mean two different things, or V3 or V4 or V whatever. So like actually being able to name your directories what you want is not necessarily a thing you can do anymore with modules. But I think like one of the things that people, I don't know if it ever really got brought up, is that like the way that package import paths are very opaque. And everybody just kind of pretended that the GC compiler and the Go toolchain are the only thing that cares about this and the only thing that defines things around this. And it's like, but no, you have GCC Go and LL Go, and you have Bazel, and you have Tiny Go, and you have all of these different things that like really have their own right via the spec to interpret import paths however they want. And in my mind, I was like, well, you could have just left the Go tool alone and left Go path the same. And then for people that wanted something more, built like Ego, Enterprise Go, or something like a new Go tool chain that treated import paths differently. And then you could have wound up without this kind of trying to have like one Go tool chain to rule them all. And I feel like it could have saved us from a lot of strife, but I don't think like we ever really reckoned with the reality that like import paths are not necessarily the same as a package name, and import paths can be treated however we want to treat them. So we don't have to look at them and mean one specific thing. That's always up to like the tool that is interpreting them as to what they mean. And it's just like that. I feel like missing that little piece of information led us like down this garden path that has led us to a very messy solution at the end of the day. I don't think anybody can really say modules has not been a messy solution.
Well,
to the
V2, that V2 thing is one of the more fugly parts. Like trying to manage when you move your module to a V2, like, oh no, now nothing works. Oh goodness, I'm spending all this time trying to get my dependencies to go back in place. But it's interesting that the Go modules thing, there was another thing that people were using before that. I'm trying to think of the author's name. Sam something?
Oh, Sam Boyer.
Yeah, exactly. That was an interesting thing because that solution was working pretty well. But, the Go team sort of decided to go their own way. I don't think they really communicated that. I mean, they didn't really have to. It was just more interesting because, like, many language compilers, like, the official one is the only one. Like, it's not like C the language, and then, many C compilers. This is typically in Go and Rust and a lot of the modern languages, there's sort of this conflagration of both the language, the tools, the tool chain, whatever standard libraries or runtimes. Like, where do you draw the line? This is something in TinyGo that we've definitely had to reckon with, which is, no operating system in your environment. What do you mean, no operating system? Like, no actual operating system. That was Patricio Winningslow gave a great talk about that at GopherCon, which I really, really enjoyed. And it was really hard for me not to jump to my feet and start yelling like, yes, basically. Or maybe I did and I just didn't know I was doing it. But it was really interesting to sort of see this idea that, there's only one way to do things, but then keep going out further from that to like, yes, and there's only one tool to use. Like, wait, hold on. That went a little too far. Like prescribing, having a great language spec that says, here are how things should work. I know that was a big hassle for Rust. Like, no language spec for the longest time. So wanting to get like the safety certification, like, okay, step 0 is we need a language spec, right? So, I mean, there is some standardization pieces that we really need. And then there's other words, maybe it's better not to specify it and to let different alternatives flourish and see. But it's an interesting observation, I think, that you have that there were more alternatives. Now all the alternatives have to sort of work within the space of what the core Go team wants to do. And we've been seeing some interesting takes on that with the with Tamago's suggestion about the bare metal Go, which I know a number of different projects are very interested in and would like to see, some version of that land, because I think it makes it very helpful for those who would like to do the sort of things we've been doing, even if it's not like was officially sanctioned, nobody was stopping us. And now it's a little too late. There's too many people doing, there's too many embedded gophers now to stop, can't stop us all.
Yeah, I think it's one of those we all have to sit down and really think about. We got to reset our framing around, especially within the Go world, of like what Go is and how Go is not just, a monolith. Like, I think there was a lot of wishful thinking around for a few years in the Go community. There was like, well, the enterprises want this, and people want this, and people are telling us they want this. And it's like, well, does the standard library need that? Like, I like Zig's approach to it. So it's like the standard library is just stuff you need to build Zig itself. And that's all that's in it. And I think for Go, it's like the standard library is robust and we needed a way to version things, but that was kind of just V2 folders. Like JSON V2, I think is a great example, or the math V2 package, where it's just like, it's not a different module. It's just a different directory that you put the new code in, and then you like rewrite the old code in terms of the new code, and it's like, get through it all, and it's great. And like Google,
the interface consistency that Go has really been fixated on is really, really helpful.
Yeah.
Zig, if you're a Zig developer, you know every time you get an update, your code will no longer compile and you have to go figure out why. And there's good reasons, but it still doesn't change the fact that you have to go do it.
Right.
I've done this 3 times now, and I'm sure I will do it more. I'm not complaining in the sense like you shouldn't do that. It's just an observation of it's like the Go interface consistency expectation is, on the one hand, it's great. On the other, oh no, but you can't actually change it now. Seriously, you can't. This is an obstacle if, you don't want a hammer, you want something else, but sorry, no, only hammers, that's it. The spec says hammer. You're like, yeah,
right.
but I don't. And so it's interesting. My take on Rust's take has always been there is no center. The ultimate and anti-fragile, use whatever you want. We're not going to prescribe anything specifically. We're just going to make it so everyone can do their own, and some people will come together who share that. That's a giant pain to figure out how to organize until you stop trying to organize it and you just sort of let it do its thing. It's It's very different from the Go monolithic. You pretty much have to expect certain changes. Either the Go team does it or what? You're no longer part of the language. You're like a Go-like language. And TinyGo is Go. Okay, there's nothing in TinyGo that is not Go. There are some packages that Go does not have, but there are packages that are not in the standard library that people use every day. So that's, that's not the same as actually, we have to modify the language spec for some very good reason, but we can't because it's fixated and the language is not extensible in a way that makes that possible. The ability to change allocators and things in Rust is super useful if you want to run in different environments. That's actually a really valid, do most people care about that? Most people don't know what that even means. But if you need it and you don't have it, you're like, what now? What do you mean, what now? That's it. No. The answer was no. And you're like, wait, hold on. So, it's, these are very interesting philosophies in action. Every programming language has a different philosophy it embodies, a different solution or set of solutions it's trying to reach. It's hard for me to believe there's a bad language just because someone doesn't like it. Oh, that was my other unpopular opinion I forgot. I was going to say, programming languages are about fashion, not about utility. Your favorite language you like just because you like it, not because it's actually better. Sorry, rational human. You're not.
That's kind of what we were talking about earlier of do we even know what words mean? What does better mean? What does best mean? We throw this stuff around here. People love to use it. Apple loves to use, the best. But at least they qualify it, right? They're like, this is the best iPhone ever. And it's okay, well, that means that it's better than all of the previous iPhones.
It's a little weaselly. I'm using one of the best now. Or one of the most. Just because, in New York, I was at a deli, and it was it said the best, most fabulous mustard, I believe is what it says. I'm like, is this the most fabulous mustard? Okay, this mustard is fabulous, all right? I'm not going to lie. But the most fabulous, I've had a few other pretty fabulous mustards. I'm going to go with one of the most fabulous because, I don't want to take away from your fabulousness. But, most? That's a tough gig. One of the most, you're in refined air. You can have your mustard container held high proudly. This is one of the most fabulous mustards. But, the most... what do you mean? I can't be world's best dad and you also be world's best dad. One of the best dads, we're group hug. Best dad, oh, sorry, there can only be one. That's, I'm just not feeling that.
It depends on if you define best as a singular thing or as a set. Because if it's a set, then you can have many best. But,
that's a very inclusive best you got going there. And I really respect that. But the colloquial use of best is typically a lot more restricted in its meaning. Like they're gonna get all mad at you. Like that is not the best breakfast place. This is, and like at that point, like you're not good neighbors anymore.
Oh, that's why I appreciate Apple saying like the best iPhone, because other people are like, this is the best smartphone ever. I'm like, best along what? Like how are you quantifying that? Anyway, Matt, I feel like you've been trying to say something. So
no, it's okay. I'm just thinking about this in reference to the chocolate shop, because like you have to use some of these superlatives though, because otherwise your competition's using them and they suck. Like, I'm not trying to like disparage anything, but we've tried almost every chocolate shop we tried every chocolate shop in the immediate area in like maybe like a 10-15 mile radius, but like then there's ones that are further out, and I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, they're absolutely garbage or whatever, but they're not using, some of them are still using Wilton crap chocolate, which is like garbage chocolate. Some of them are using, some other crap chocolate off the shelf that you can buy, and some of them are using actually good chocolate, but like the inside ingredients aren't, they're not made fresh. You know what I mean? Like the ganaches and stuff they put inside are not made fresh, and they're like more off the shelf. Instead of using real strawberries, or using like preservative stuff and whatever. You're
really making me want some chocolate right now. So so this is working. Okay.
So I tell my wife, I'm like, they're calling themselves like the best, but they're not, because we make better than that.
Right.
And if you don't use that word, if you're not speaking highly of yourself, customers are gonna be like, well, I guess what I'm trying to say is customers are influenced by this language, even if it's incorrect, or even if it's like misleading. And like, if you don't use that language, they look at you like, oh, then why buy you over this place? Like, they're the best in town. It's like, well, they actually are the best in town, but whatever. So you're kind of forced into this little game somewhat, and you have to kind of advertise your own and kind of speak highly of yourself. And we try not to use the superlatives either. Like, but it's hard, man. It is so hard.
It is. Although there's like, I remember watching, I think it was like a clip from QI where they were like, what words don't they use on fine dining restaurant menus? And it turned out to be words like fresh. Because it's like, you expect the food at a fine dining restaurant to be fresh. Like you don't need to write down the thing that is the bare minimum that is expected.
Well, that's where we say aged instead of old.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. It's table stakes, right? You shouldn't have to define the table stakes, and you're totally correct. Like, you don't walk into like Hermes or something and be like, this is real leather, right? Like, yeah, if that's the whole point. Like, they make real leather things. Or you don't go into Apple and be like, oh, so like you make this iPhone, right? It's not like a third party. Like, yeah, it's all table stakes things.
Yeah.
And
it's
don't talk to Foxconn about that.
Yeah.
Designed in California, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. No, it's also because I think about this a lot when it comes to like my baking, where I've had to like adjust, and anybody that's in like my baking distribution circle knows they have to like adjust their ratings for things, because it's like I'm a very good baker. If you listener or viewer don't believe that, just ask anybody on this podcast, but anybody else at GopherCon, really, a whole bunch of people.
I will testify. The chocolate chip cookies were amazing. It literally saved me at one point. I had terrible low blood sugar. I was like, no cognition was happening. You show up with this amazing cookie. Next thing I know, like, wow, 99% percentile, just that fast. Like 5 minutes, 0 to 99 percentile. It was great.
If you were my friend, I'd rob those from you.
You're like, oh, this box of cookies is mine now.
Yeah, it's mine now.
Yeah, no, when you went away and there were no more cookies, I was like, wait, where'd Kris go? Like, wait, I need another cookie. Like, really, first cookie's free? Is that how this works? But just that kind of homemade, but also like very light. I've done a little baking. I'm not an expert baker by any of the imagination. Enough to appreciate when someone actually does it well.
Yeah. Yeah. I say that because it's just like within my regular baking distribution circle, everybody knows to like scale their expectations toward the high end, because at this point, I've been baking for long enough that I'm like, the floor of my baking, so like the worst thing I make is better than the best thing that most people make, right? So it's like I'm in the top tier of bakers, at least in like hobbyist bakers. So all of my friends that I bring baked goods to have adjusted their scaling of things, where it's like, people be like, oh, this is like good, but it's not like good as in like this is like a mediocre average baked good. They're like, no, this is good for you. So it's like, great, fantastic. If anybody else brought me this, I'd be like, this is amazing. But like compared to what else you've made for me, this is okay. This is good. This is mediocre.
This is what your teachers used to do that would drive you nuts. You were like, what do you mean this is not like an A? You're like, yeah, any other student, but like, you're like, wait a minute, how do you know what I'm capable of? Well, you did a much better one last week. And it's like, all right, I'm going to stop you right there. Here's a cookie.
I mean, that is true. And that's how you know, like you're adapt. That's one thing that humans are kind of sort of bad at sometimes is reevaluating someone's perception and like, knowing how to like remeasure them or understand them again. Like Kris, like if you gave me your baked goods or whatever, and I kept evaluating you based on you being like a first time baker, like I've never adjusted to your growing skill and kind of grew with you to be able to critique you. And we don't really do that well in general, but definitely in the software space. We don't really do that well. And I'm not going to get into this right now because I do have to drop for a call. But I just wish more people would.
If you look at your code from last year and you think it's good, it means you've peaked as a programmer.
Yeah.
Right? Like you should be looking at your code from a few years ago like, oh man, like what was this idiot doing? Like you look at get blame, it's you. And you're like, oh, I have no memory of being that dumb, but it was me. But then like the corollary is that is, okay, I'm getting better. Right? Yep. Unless of course you look at it and like, oh man, I was so good. And you're like, oh, I've got bad news for you. Okay, back to the gym because that means you peaked.
Yeah.
All right, let me drop.
But I don't know why you guys don't get together, like Kris's Cookies with a K. I don't know, maybe we can't go there, but with your chocolate, I don't know. Is this like Reese's Peanut Butter Cup? Is this is this a mashup? Is this the ultimate cross?
Possibly,
maybe at one point.
I will be the test subject to let you know how the cookies turn out. I volunteer.
Yeah. Well, with that, I think that's a good place to end. Our after show is going a little bit long, so. It's supposed to be short, but sometimes we run longer. But yeah.
I don't get out much.
Thank you, Ron, for joining us for both the episode and the after show. And thank you, Matt, for being a wonderful co-host as always. And thank you, listener/viewer, for listening and viewing. Well, what do you think about this and the episode? Let us know in the comments or like on social media or somewhere like that. And with that, see y'all later. Bye. Break is a Fallthrough Media production and is produced by Kris Brandow, and our beats are by Breakmaster Cylinder.